everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am talking about some magical books. So in honor of the Magical Readathon, which is a readathon hosted by G from Book Roast, but is happening all through the month of April, I decided I wanted to talk about some of my absolute favorite books with magic in them. So I do have some from middle grade, young adult, and adult age ranges, and literally every single one of these I gave like 5 stars. Absolutely love them. So yes, let's jump on in. The first one I have here is Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a book where the magic system is almost like Men in Black, where it's like part of our world, but on a different side of it. Not everybody can find it, not everybody can see it, that kind of thing. And our main character of this story, obviously, is Amari, because Amari and the Night Brothers. And she actually is trying to find her missing brother, and in that process realizes that there's magic in this world. She gets accepted sort of into the society, but she's not 100% into it yet because she has to survive some magical trials and like pass them in order to actually like integrate into this like mysterious magical thing. I absolutely love this one. Such a fun middle grade, and so yes, I had to mention it. The next middle grade I have here is The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is the start of a series. I think quite a few of these are actually. I have read the first 3 books in this series, although there are 5 total, and they are all out. I just need to get back into it. But one thing I loved about this is that we are following the sort of traditional, having a main character, going to a magic school, is there a chosen one, is there not sort of thing, and realizing that this book is turning the chosen one trope like 100% upside down on its head. I absolutely loved it. I think every single book that I've read so far, so like the first 3, had some sort of like twist or turn to it where it is subverting those tropes, and I absolutely loved it, especially because it is a middle grade series. So me as an adult reading it, I was loving the fact that like I couldn't predict what was going to happen just based on the normal tropes, and I absolutely loved it. The next one we have here is Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer. This is again the start of a series that I absolutely love. This is an 8-book series, and I think it originally came out like in the early 2000s. Like I remember this from my childhood. It has had many covers since, but I absolutely love it. This follows our main character of Artemis Fowl, who is sort of a boy genius, and uses his genius powers for not that good. Like he tries to steal money from different banks, and he decides that he wants to trap a fairy and use their magic. And again, I love the fact that it's not like the nicest character that we want to root for, but as you continue through the series, like they still just like get my heart every single time. But so we do have this like fairy world, lots of magic, and yeah, it's a classic sort of middle grade fantasy series that, again, I absolutely love. Another middle grade series is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This one I've talked about many times on my channel because I absolutely love it, and I'm actually currently reading this series. Like I've been getting a new book every few months or so and reading it, so I just can't shut up enough about this, obviously. But this is the book that follows our main character of Sophie, who finds out in this first book that she's not human, she's actually an elf, and she ends up going into this elf world and having to realize that there are different types of magic, and like what does she have, what does she not have. There's big conspiracy stuff, and like every single book opens this world up more and more, and so yes, again, I absolutely love this series. I think I'm going to say that about every single book. But yes, if you're looking for especially like a magic school sort of setting, this is one of the ones. And then the last middle grade I wanted to talk about today is Nevermoor, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in a series. I've not read any more yet, but I absolutely love this one, especially because it deals with magical trials. This is one of my favorite tropes, things that you can find in magic books, and it follows our main character of Morrigan, who in this world, like, she's destined to die on one of her birthdays. I think it's like her 11th or 12th birthday, something like that. But instead, she gets whisked away to Nevermoor and has to face some magical trials in order to be accepted in this society. And again, I absolutely loved it. We're gonna move into some young adult books now. The first one I have here is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. So this is a book that again has magical trials, because I am nothing if not predictable, and this is like a mix of like Moulin Rouge and Phantom of the Opera, but with magicians. Like, I really absolutely love this one. But we are following characters who have magic, and there's this magical competition, but there's also something not quite right with the world and city that they're in. And this is just one of those books that I had feelings the entire time. I don't even know if I can necessarily explain what the feeling was, but there was something in my chest that drove me to read this book. I've not read the sequel yet, and it's a duology. Like, I think I need to just reread this one to then continue, because I did absolutely love it. Like, this was one of those ones that I could not put down. Like, that, I just like couldn't do it. Physically could not do it. I loved it. The next one I have here is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This is a book all about magic. First of all, we have witches, obviously, but this is following our main character who actually has seasonal magic. Like, in this world, all the witches have different seasonal magic. When it's summer, the summer witches are their most powerful. When it's winter, the winter witches are their most powerful. But our main character actually has all 4 seasons and has no idea how to deal with it, because she is like one of the only people that they have ever heard of to have all 4 seasons magic. I loved how it made her the character that she is, because each season makes her feel different. This does have some romance in it, which I'm always a sucker for, and this is one of those ones that, like, the first printing had very, very gorgeous stuff under the dust jacket. Yes, I read this as an ARC and then had to have a copy because I loved it that much. The next young adult book I have here is Runemarks by Joanne Harris. This is another book from my childhood that I have owned for so long. Like, when did this book come out? Because I read it forever ago, 2008. So I say childhood. It came out when I was 18, but that's when I picked it up, because this is the original hardcover. I absolutely love this one. There is 100% magic in it, obviously, but at its root, it's Norse mythology stuff set in the real world. Like, we have Odin and Loki and everything like that, so like, it does have magic 100%, but this is the book that got me started into Norse mythology. Like, it came out before the Thor movie first came out, I'm pretty sure. I think this was the year that the first Iron Man came out. So like, people that get into it because of Marvel, do that if you want to, 100%. But this started my like mythology journey for things that weren't just Greek mythology. And so yes. The next one I have here is A Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova. I'm sure we can tell by the title of this book that there is a magical trial in here. I absolutely loved it. This is a spin-off series of her Air Awakens series, which I have not read yet. Desperately want to. I actually have it on these shelves behind me, but we have elemental magic. So our main character actually has water magic and is trying to become like the water magic representative for a different trial that's going to happen in a different country. And I absolutely loved reading this and seeing the sort of like world building that was here. There are some twists and turns again that I didn't see coming. I absolutely love this one. The ending like got me. And again, this is an indie author I've talked about on my channel before, and so she has really, really gorgeous standard naked hardcovers. The last young adult I wanted to talk about today is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is a book that I read last year, fell in love with. It started off a little bit slow, so I wasn't actually entirely sure I was going to give this a full 5 stars. I think part of it is that I was reading it back when Elliot was only a few months old, and so reading in general, especially when it's a physical book, still even takes a while. Like, ebooks are just easier to read, but I'm slowly getting back into that mix of ebooks and physical books, and so it did start off slow. Part of it was the story, part of it was me, but the characters of this one like I fell in love with. I did love the plot as well, obviously, because I did give this a full 5 stars. Like, it's one of my new favorites, but I think the characters are really what sold it for me, and this follows a main character who works as, like, sort of a librarian. Like, she's not up to the librarian level yet, but in this world, the libraries are filled with books that are alive, like grimoire sort of stuff, and so these books have like living personalities and things, and there are levels of how dangerous they are, and so we have this sort of magical element, but then there's also sorcerers too, and because of how she grew up, she's not really into people that are sorcerers. Like, they don't really get along well with librarians, but then things start happening, there's an attack on the library, and everything just like goes from there. And yes, I absolutely love this one. The magic is amazing, and we had some romance. Like, I just love the characters. This is a great one. And then we're gonna move into some adult books. The first one I have here is Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames. This is a book that, again, definitely has magic. We have some magicians and stuff like that, but this is like not your typical fantasy magic book because our main characters are retired. They're a retired band of mercenaries. Like, they're getting past middle age, getting into the older age, but they're coming back together to save one of their daughters. One of the guy's daughters is off in this like battle area. She's a much younger person, like probably in her 20s, and so these like 50-year-old men are gonna go save her. And I loved the sort of mix between the action that we have here. We definitely have some like good old fantasy action, but we also have a lot of like found family and heart, and it's very heartwarming. Like, I love the friendships between the characters that we have here, and it's also hilarious. Like, I loved every single second of these because it mixes those feelings and genres very, very well. And so yes, it does have magic, it does have magicians, but just the whole aspect of these characters coming together to go save somebody's daughter, like, I loved. The next book I have here is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. This is one that I actually watched the movie first because the movie came out like when I was in high school, or like the very beginning of college. Like, I just absolutely love that one. I've probably seen it like 20 times, no lie. And so a few years ago I decided to read the book as well. They aren't 100% the same, but I still loved them so much. This one's a little bit darker, but the concept is basically the same. Our main character of Tristan is trying to find a star for this girl that he really loves, and there is like this wall through their town of wall, and like when you go over it, you go from a normal real world with no magic to this very magical sort of dark place, and I absolutely loved it. I want to say this is one of my first Neil Gaiman books that I read. I think I only ended up reading Good Omens before this one, which is also by Terry Pratchett, but the sort of style of it and how it is fantasy, but it's a little bit dark, but not like too dark, I loved it. The next one I have here is Every Heart is Our Way by Shauna McGuire. This is actually here because of the whole Wayward Children series. I have not finished the series yet, but it's portal fantasy, and a lot of these portals have magic in some way or form. In some of the books, like this one here, they are following children that have come back from these portal worlds, and so this is actually at a school. There's not much magic there, obviously, because it's more in the real world, but basically, like every other book is in a fantasy world somewhere, in a portal world somewhere, and we do deal with lots of magical stuff. Some is good magic, some is not. Like, it really varies from book to book, from child to child, and I absolutely love it. These are novellas, so they're very quick to read, but so far I have loved every single one, like 4.5 or 5 stars. Just, yeah, 100% full of magic, and it is a series, they are very quick to devour. The next book I have here is Song of Blood and Stone by L. Penelope. This is a fantasy romance, a little bit more fantasy heavy than romance heavy, but I absolutely loved it. This is about a woman who is living on one side of a magical mantle. Like, we have 2 different kingdoms separated by this sort of like veil. It is cracking, and the problem with that is one land has magic, the other one doesn't, and the one that does have magic has this very like ruthless king that is going to definitely come through and like conquer everybody. And so she has to work together with another guy who is undercover in this area and like try and stop this from happening, because like it is cracking, things are about to go down. And I loved the way that the magic worked here. This is written by a Black author, and it does deal with some racism topics and stuff like that as well, so just be aware of that going in, but it is one of my favorites. I absolutely loved it. And then the last book that I picked out today is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Again, magic. It has magic in the title. This is the first book in a trilogy, and then we're having a spin-off series coming out later this year. Like, I am so excited. But I loved every single one of these books. This is about characters, Kel specifically, who can actually like jump through the different versions of London. Like, we have 4 different versions of London. Some have magic in the world, like that is just part of it, and then some don't, sort of like our London. Like, we don't really have magic, and there is other stuff going on, darker magic, things are happening behind the scenes, but overall it's about the portal magic stuff, and I absolutely loved this one. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely one that people have probably heard about, and it has the word magic in the title, so I had to include it here. And that is going to be it for today. Just some very favorite books of mine that have magic in them, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know some of your favorite books with magic in them, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I have videos coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!